This video came out years ago, but I never got around to doing a breakdown of it. It is arguably the most famous Jehovah's Witness video ever produced. It got so much heat and backlash from the outside world that they actually removed it from their archives. Yes, I'm talking about that video, the Sonia shunning video. I know a lot of you have seen this already, but just in case you're new to the channel, you're still learning about Jehovah's Witnesses, maybe you have a relative who's a Jehovah's Witness, or you're studying with Jehovah's Witnesses and you have no clue what I'm talking about, you're going to want to stick around for this, especially if you have children. I'm a writer, I talk to a variety of people, and I can't tell you how many times over the years it's just come up in conversation, it just depends on the situation. Somehow it comes up in the conversation that, yeah, I was raised in a cult. And when I say that, a lot of times it's like, oh, you were raised in a cult. Oh my gosh. And then when I tell them it's the Witnesses, they're like, oh, I didn't realize they were a cult. Like, I just thought they were like a kooky, quirky, group that just knocked on doors on Saturday mornings. They're a cult, really? People don't realize the gravity of the Witnesses and how harmful they are. Jehovah's Witnesses are a cult hiding in plain sight, but they're easy to laugh at because they don't look threatening. Anyone who blows off the Witnesses is either ignorant, meaning they truly just don't know, or if they did come from the Witnesses, sometimes I'll get this like stupid bro-y energy of like, I don't take them seriously. And this is usually coming from people who didn't have anything to lose. They weren't molested by an elder or have their family taken from them. So it's really convenient for them to be a badass. So today we are going to watch the famous Sonia shunning video. This is what Jehovah's Witnesses won't tell you in their initial sales pitch. This will be long. I'm going to show the entire video. Here we go.
It feels so good to be with my family and friends. When I'm with the brothers and sisters in our congregation, it's the best place I could be. My children and I are so happy now. But it hasn't always been this way. My parents were missionaries when my mom got pregnant with me. Mom and Dad were very zealous, and people just assumed that I would follow in their footsteps. And for a while, I did. I was the model child who was always held up as an example. Sure, the attention boosted my self-confidence, but it also put me under enormous pressure. It was like everyone was watching me, and I couldn't make a mistake.
So we meet Sonia, whose parents have been Jehovah's Witnesses, devout Jehovah's Witnesses, missionaries forever. They raise Sonia in this belief system, and then she gets baptized as a child. She's a minor when she gets baptized. A child does not have the ability to consent to a lifelong, life-altering decision like this. Okay, a child's job is to learn reading and writing and, basic manners and be a kid. That's their job. People need to understand that Jehovah's Witness minors are pressured by their parents and community to get baptized. It's not like they took in all this information. They have all this life experience. They've reached this conclusion as a grown moral free agent. Your entire life from infancy is consumed with being a witness. This isn't just church on Sundays. And I've said this before, that's no slam to anybody who just goes to church on Sunday. I don't care. Your parents are orchestrating your life from the moment you're born. Your life is decided for you if you have devout Jehovah's Witness parents. So it's very easy to manipulate impressionable children who have nowhere to go, who don't have any outside reference, who are already emotionally and physically vulnerable. They cannot advocate for themselves. You have to understand, if they say, Mom and Dad, I don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness, they're not just going to be like, oh, okay, honey, sure, that's fine. They're not going to stop. They're going to keep at it. They're going to keep pushing, whether they actually have good intentions and just want you to come to the correct conclusion. They want you to really take the truth into your heart and make the truth your own. And some parents are really strict. They rule their house with an iron fist. It's my way or the highway. I know some of you will relate to this. As for me and my household, we shall serve Jehovah. So they're going to be real hard asses about it. Or you might just get really emotionally manipulative annoying parents who just won't shut up about it, and you're like, God, get me out of this house. This is cult indoctrination from birth. What they are doing to Sonia is abuse. They may not be beating the shit out of her, but it's not right that they're setting her up like this. Okay, Sonia, like all other Jehovah's Witness minors who get baptized, are products of undue influence and coercive control. All right, let's keep watching.
In my mid-teens, I began to feel torn. I liked the truth, but I felt so confined. I didn't tell anyone how I felt. I just pretended everything was all right and went through the motions. I envied kids who didn't have to live under so many restrictions. And if they got the truth later in life, they got to experience the best of both worlds.
So many of us went through this just like Sonia. Felt trapped, confined, going through the motions. It's like living in an alternate universe. The organization knows what it's doing. And this Sonia Erickson video is the perfect example because they have enough self-awareness to verbalize these feelings that all these Jehovah's Witness teenagers, even though this is a dramatization, they have the self-awareness to verbalize these feelings that Jehovah's Witness youth go through and experience and create a fictional script that is so painfully accurate. Even if you're not fully cognitively aware of what's happening, you can't intellectually explain why they're wrong. You don't realize you're in a cult. You just know something's off. You know you're miserable. What happens is there's this tension that starts to build, and one of two things happens. Either you're just going to snap. A lot of people have nervous breakdowns. I did. Or you get so worn down and depressed that you just sort of resign. It feels insurmountable. Like, how am I going to get out of this? Let's see what happens to Sonia.
I thought maybe things would improve after I graduated high school. But then at my new job, I met Eric. He truly understood me. He made me feel special. And I loved him. I loved him. In many ways, I felt free. For the first time in my life, I could just do what I wanted. It wasn't long before our relationship became intimate. I felt guilt at first, but after a while, it just seemed that this is what two people who love each other do. And I was willing to give up everything for him. Everything.
Ugh, the heartbeat. The scene is so dark. They make it look like she's hooking up with Norman Bates. This whole Eric situation is just a tired trope. Here's the deal. Maybe he is just playing her. It's quite possible. Or maybe he's just a normal dude looking for a girlfriend. He's at work all the time. She's at work all the time. They hit it off. They're compatible. But the organization loves to create this subtext, this subliminal messaging that the outsider, the worldly guy, is trying to lead her away from Jehovah. It's all some dark, intentional ploy to tear down her faith, by getting into her pants. They will always make it look like, Satan has custom made, handcrafted this specific temptation for Sonia. Ugh.
Looking back, my parents tried hard to do the right thing. To do things Jehovah's way. But because I didn't have a hatred for what's bad, I couldn't see anything wrong with my choices. This eventually led me to do things I later regretted. I ended up getting disfellowshipped.
Sonia Erickson has been disfellowshipped.
It crushed my whole family.
Okay, to continue the meeting, we may remember last month's service.
Later, my father explained to me that I couldn't remain in the home because I refused to change my lifestyle. He told me I was having a negative effect on my younger brother and sister. And I'm out of this house. I was determined to do what I wanted. When I left home that day, all I could think about was Eric. I didn't even care that my parents' hearts were breaking. I didn't think about the devastation and disappointment that I had caused them. I blamed my parents for my situation. I even blamed Jehovah. My family missed me so much, even after all I had done. What helped them to remain loyal to Jehovah for the many years I was disfellowshipped? It was the Bible account of Aaron. Jehovah directly judged 2 of Aaron's sons and put them to death. In this case, Jehovah asked Aaron and his family not to mourn, in order to show the entire nation that they supported Jehovah's judgment. Mom and Dad saw that they needed to be loyal, just like Aaron. They loved me and wanted me to come back to Jehovah. I tried to contact them. I just wanted to talk and to hear their voice. I missed being with my family. And they thought about reaching out to me. But they knew that if they had associated with me, even a little, just to check on me, that small dose of association might have satisfied me.
Okay, so Sonia gets DF'd. She gets removed. She gets disfellowshipped, removed from the congregation. You saw the whole public humiliation ceremony. Her family acts like she died. Sonia is racked with guilt and shame. This is what we're talking about. When former Jehovah's Witnesses talk about shunning, this isn't enduring, a little bit of awkward dinner conversation at Thanksgiving. Your child is dead. This is why. This is why Jehovah's Witnesses are so stunted sexually or sexually frustrated. There's so much guilt and shame surrounding sex. All right, so a little factoid. Premarital sex is prohibited, so a lot of Jehovah's Witness women get DF'd for premarital sex. However, there are a handful that don't. There are Jehovah's Witness women out there who get away with it. But let me be absolutely clear about something. It's never about the woman. She didn't get a free pass because she was repentant or they wanted to show mercy. Something else is going on behind the scenes. It's always about the men in power. Something's going on behind the scenes, some sort of congregation politics. Maybe daddy is the presiding overseer, coordinator of the body of elders. This elder is cronies with her dad. For some reason or another, if they disfellowship her, the optics would look bad. And that's what they actually base their decision on. It has nothing to do with the facts, because you should think everybody should get the same sentence, right? Everybody commits the same crime, everybody should be disfellowshipped or removed for it. Not so. Someone, somewhere is covering their ass. I guarantee you, if this was real, the Judicial Committee doesn't give an F about her dad and how the family is gonna look. Nerdy Ned over here is low on the totem pole, for whatever reason. Because if he had some serious clout or connections, Sonia wouldn't have been DF'd. How do I know all this? I was Sonia. I was Sonia, she is me, we are all Sonia. I mean, I didn't bang a Backstreet Boy at a Holiday Inn, but I was the golden child who had all that pressure on her shoulders. Growing up, I had an older sibling who was considered the screw-up of the family, even though that's not how I viewed them. So there was this constant pressure to redeem the family image and make sure my parents looked good. When Sonia is throwing a temper tantrum with her father, I mean, first of all, it's just a cheap shot. It's unrealistic. You're talking about a grown-ass woman with a job. This isn't some unruly 12-year-old who got her navel pierced at Claire's. I have to say that if you are acting like that and you want to be pissy and you're going to choose to be rebellious or whatever, you should be out of the house. Oh yeah, I mean, like, why would you want to be home? You need to be out. But then, she talks about how her parents were devastated. I can't help but think of the disappointment and devastation that I caused my parents. You know what's devastation? Your kid has cancer. Your kid died. Disappointment is more like it. Disappointment is an accurate statement to make. You're so brainwashed and narcissistic that it's all about you. It's all about your image as parents. That's why you're disappointed. And this is the brand of deity you're getting involved with, okay? God murdered Aaron's sons, and they said, don't you dare cry for them. When you truly get to know Jehovah's Witnesses as a culture, it's easy to see why they would be called extremist in some countries. Their practices and their mandates, their shunning mandate, is inhumane. This woman gestated a human. She carried her daughter in her womb, clothed her, fed her, loved her, propped her up, only to completely discard her when her daughter stopped being a perfect reflection of her parents' expectations and values. I live in North Carolina. Back in 2017, right around the time I was backing away from the meetings, I was fading and then eventually disassociated, Hurricane Florence hit North Carolina, and thankfully we were not impacted. We had really bad storms, but our home was okay, we were safe. And then we used to live in Asheville, and Hurricane Helene devastated Asheville. Thankfully, again, extremely grateful that we were not impacted by that. A lot of people lost their homes and their lives, neighbors, family. There was no check-in. Is Beth alive? Is Beth alive? How are they doing? Because I can't do anything for them now. I don't have any currency in their world. I don't make them look good. I am a blight on the family name.
I was disfellowshipped for more than 15 years. I had 2 children now, and as time went by, I thought about their future. I thought more and more about returning to Jehovah in the congregation, but I didn't feel worthy.
Psalm 86.
One day, 2 elders stopped by and kindly reminded me that Jehovah wants me to return to him. They showed me Psalm 86, verse 5, where it says that Jehovah is ready to forgive. I thought about that verse the rest of the day. Jehovah is ready to forgive. So I decided to go to the Kingdom Hall for the first time in many years.
Feeling of remorse is healthy. It can move us to take positive steps to correct our mistakes.
It made me realize just how far off track I had gotten. I was determined to qualify for reinstatement. Nearly a year later, my reinstatement was announced to the congregation.
Sonia Erickson is reinstated as one of Jehovah's Witnesses.
I was so happy. The brothers and sisters welcomed me very warmly. Being back together again with my family and Jehovah made me feel so good. I knew this is where I needed to be, and I didn't ever want to leave again. But when I'm alone, I struggle with whether Jehovah has really forgiven me. One time I was so distraught that I called my father for help. He comforted me with the words of Isaiah 1, verse 18, where Jehovah says that our sins, which are like scarlet or crimson cloth, can become white like snow. Then my father related the Bible account of Manasseh. Manasseh did on a grand scale what was bad in Jehovah's eyes to offend him. He even sacrificed his sons in false worship. Eventually, Manasseh genuinely repented, and Jehovah forgave him. This Bible account touched me deeply. Now, I have to be willing to forgive myself. If Jehovah was willing to forgive the sins of Manasseh, as bad as they were, Surely He has forgiven me. What a blessing to understand that Jehovah forgives in a large way. And now, I'm truly happy.
Jesus Christ. Sonia says that she was DF'd for 15 years. Her mother didn't speak to her for 15, or father, 15 years. The absolute mindfuckery this woman has been through. Okay, she has 2 children. She's put her body through a roller coaster of hormonal changes, watched her 2 children grow. By the way, I want to say this really quick. You do notice they don't mention Eric ever again. We don't hear about Eric anymore. Where's Eric? Is he the father? Let's assume he is. He doesn't matter. He's irrelevant. He could be the best father. He could be in the background somewhere. We don't know. They don't say. Eric could be in the background, realizing what he got into, getting involved with Sonia, with the Jehovah's Witness from his office. Now they have 2 kids together. And he's like, okay, guys, I'm going to be the normal parent while your mother deals with all this bullshit. Mommy and her family have some serious issues. I'm going to be the normal one from now on. But I just find it interesting that by omitting him from the picture, the message is he must be a deadbeat. That's the organization's way of saying, well, see? You're a single mother. Look what happens when you go your own way. Nah. This is what happens when you train a child from infancy that they're disposable, that their worth as a human being is directly commensurate to their devotion to an organization and to following the rules. Okay, you got Sonia, who's just growing up. She was a happy, healthy child. She grows up. She says, this isn't really right for me. I don't wish you any ill will. No, I come in peace. All good, but I don't think this is right for me. I'm of childbearing age, have a healthy, normal libido. I work. I'm a productive member of society. I'm a good person who's just growing up. Nothing about me or this situation is abnormal, but what happens is they instead normalize abnormal behavior. They normalize erasing people, then twist it around to make it look like you're the aggressor. If you have to bend over backwards and change who you are on a fundamental level, change everything about yourself to earn their love and approval, what does that say about them? All right, Sonia comes back. She drags her children with her. Now her children are now sucked into this. They were not born into the organization. They had a chance. And now she, because of her guilt and shame and her stuff, which came from her own childhood that she's had to grapple with, she is now repeating the cycle and sucking her children into this craziness. This is an extremely toxic message of conditional love, that Sonia will only receive love and approval so long as she lives up to her parents' expectations. And I'm not saying we all have to be coddled. At some point you have to just grow a thick skin and be who you are and build some sort of emotional resilience. But again, if you have to jump through hoops, make yourself sick, go through this psychological torture and humiliation and twist yourself into a pretzel to be loved by your family, maybe they're the problem. Where does compromise and mutual respect and love, where does love come in? And that's another thing about this video and about Jehovah's Witness culture, is that shunning is considered love. They have perverted the definition of love. They think that this is perfectly acceptable. So when I watch something like this, it makes me sick. And she talks about it throughout the rest of the video, how even though she was reinstated, she was still grappling with shame and guilt, and she didn't feel truly worthy. Sonia is going to be dealing with that. Sonia represents so many people who end up going back to the organization. That feeling never really goes away. That shame and humiliation and punishment that they were given for doing something when they were 16, 17, 22, or whatever, will follow them around and will follow Sonia around for the rest of her life. Truth is, I could talk about this video for hours, but I'm not going to. Again, a lot of you have seen this already, so thanks for sticking around. And for those who hadn't seen it, thank you for watching. As usual, I appreciate you coming back week after week, subscribing and all that. And, you know, I hope that these videos are providing something that you need, some comic relief or something. You deserve it. I hope you guys have a great week. Know your worth, and I'll see you guys in the next video.